Danny. Welcome back to the All UV Cast channel where it's all UV all the time. All right, I've got Cliff with me here this morning. Cliff, how's it going, man?
It's going well, man. Really interesting circumstances after yesterday's win, but I'm feeling good. How about you?
There you go. There you go. Hey, a win's a win. A win's a win. I'm going to take
Yep.
it. It was greasy, but I'll take it. And we move on. But of course, today we will recap it. We'll go over it. It's the same old battle that you have been witnessing since probably the last year and a half of Allegri's first tenure with the club. And now since he's been back, which is results versus style. So the style points versus the real points, the battle wages on. We, of course, will chime in today and go over this game and then get her going. Morning to everybody that's already with us in the live. Bob, always in here. Mohammed, ciao, ciao. Tony coming in here. And what a difficult year for Juventini. I'm really tired of Allegri ball. Well, let's start to uncover some of this. And again, there's many more. Dan Lucci's in here. Luca's in here. We suffer all the time, but we don't lose for many games. Allegri King. Wow, Kirsten there. Okay, well,
Do you
we're
see these
gonna have
comments?
both sides of it. We're
You see
gonna
these
have both
comments
sides.
already? You already got Lucci talking about the hoodie. This is a Striped Hearts apparel hoodie.
Nice,
Clean.
very nice. Striped Hearts apparel. I like it. I like the colorway. Very sharp.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get to it. Without wasting too much time here. Fiorentina, Juve, 1-0. Okay, first leg of the Coppa Italia Semi Final. Starting lineups. There wasn't anything that really changed, that surprised anybody from what was projected, other than the fact of Morata being out, because shockingly to me, Vlahovic was slated to start. I thought I'd probably rest him after what I saw yesterday. I don't think it technically would have really mattered if he was in or not based on how he played, but Vlahovic started. Morata started from the bench. Keane was in there. And everything else remained the same from what we saw that was projected. Okay, it was Pedin, Danilo, De Ligt, De Sciglio, Ake, Locatelli, Arthur, Rabiot, Pellegrini, and then of course Keane and Vlahovic. In terms of the starting lineup, exactly what I expected from the projections and what Allegri has gone to in the final training sessions leading up to this match. I had no problems with it. And I know there was a lot of humming and hawing about Ake being a wingback, whatnot, but I thought, he's got the characteristics to make it work. And, it is what it is. Let's go. I didn't want too many youngsters in there, because I think, and you could tell we're still going after this Coppa Italia. Like, we're getting after it. So I was fine with it. Your thoughts on that lineup, Cliff?
Well, yeah, I mean, you hit some really good points. I think this team obviously dictated some changing up, considering all the injuries. So, Ake getting in there. Obviously, we also got a lot of people in the chat. We got our teammates Lex and Ann in here this morning. Love to see it. So yeah, I mean, for me, if you look at the team, I kind of expected that. It was one of the youngsters would get the start. I thought Ake would get it because he'd already had some playing time previously. So this setup is like a 3-5-2, right? I thought Keane was actually going to do better in the match at that position, but we'll get into that. I thought Pellegrini was it was interesting seeing him kind of as a left mid instead of like a left back. See how he does progressing up and down the pitch. I mean, overall, I can't really complain. It is what it is. It's Coppa Italia, and we pulled out the win. But let's get into it a little bit more.
Yeah, we'll get into highlights, recapping it, and then kind of going from there. There is not much for highlights, we have to be honest. Let's pull up these clips. So here's the first one, a little bit of a nervy start. And again, Fiorentina deploying the press immediately. Okay. And Perin luckily not getting caught here. Bonaventura unable to turn this one towards goal. But again, the signs were there early about exactly what Fiorentina was going to do, and we fully expected it if you've followed Fiorentina this year and Italiano and what he likes to do with his team. Here was the early signs, and it would be interesting to see how Juventus wanted to play out of it. What I thought was interesting, and you see in this sequence here, is again the four at the back kept pretty narrow. Rabiot, it's kind of a little too far ahead, a little bit narrow between the four, and not a lot of options. Pitting in this situation has to just get it out. Okay, like I'm not sure, like trying to sneak one and be clever low on the ground there, just get rid of it. If there's nothing there, have it out for a throw, whatever. Move on, take your shape, let's go. But risky there, and early on would have changed things drastically. Counterattack. Fiorentina comes back, and man, this one didn't end up missing by much. There's another a warning shot. But again, these were off counters. So Allegri normally pisses a lot of people off with what he says in post-match, but he was kind of right in terms of when Fiorentina did truly hurt Juve, they were counters where we got caught. And then why did we get caught? Poor possession, cheaply dispossessed, and we'll talk about that because you saw that throughout the game. Here's again another opportunity. Fiorentina work it around. This shot just goes high. Perin always in the right spot. Again, another counter. This one second half change, by the way. Ake, 45th minute. Cliff, what did you see in Ake? To be honest, we didn't get to see a whole lot of it, and I wanted to touch on this too. I think, man, I honestly think he had 17 touches in 45 minutes of football. So your thoughts on Ake that first half?
Yeah, a little bit unimpressed with what I saw from him. But I mean, he's still young. I think you can't just really base his potential just off this game. Yeah, I mean, I didn't see much. I think he was okay for what he did, but obviously, I think they put in Cuadrado for him. So I mean, I saw more from Cuadrado. I know Lucci's not going to be happy, but I saw more from him than I did from Ake.
Yeah, it's it's a tough one for me. I'm not too hard on him, and the reason is you could see we didn't really go that way. Really didn't go that route, and you could tell he had one thing on his mind. Like if you watched Ake, and he was not going to get caught sacrificing his defensive position. So it was a very, very safe approach in that game from Ake. And he tried beating a guy a couple times when he had literally no options. And this was another thing.
Yeah.
I continuously hear that the players need to take more heat because of their errant passes, all this, whatnot. In the first half, I lost count of how many times we would progress the ball outside of Arthur, outside of the defenders. Any times our wingbacks got it, any times even our forwards got it, there was barely one option to go with the ball. Like there needs to be multiple options, and this comes down to a lot of things. Again, playing in a manner where it is defensive first, and nobody can deny it. With Max, it's defense first.
Always.
When you play in that manner, there's not a lot of guys that are pressing, and you see off the ball movement where they're becoming that option for these players. They really aren't. And I saw a lot of them first half, so it's hard for me to really get on Ake, and the fact that he only touched the ball 17 times. We really weren't going towards that avenue, and it was really, really tough. So I can't be too hard on him, but I mean, what do you do with 17 touches in 45 minutes, right? Probably just a flat out standard rating. But Cuadrado's more experienced. He knows when to take risks and how to take them and do it. So it doesn't surprise me that we would see a little bit more from him, right? But we'll continue on with the highlights here. Again, counterattack, second half, and again, this one, he rings this one off the bar. So this one hits the upright, cuts in, a little bit unlucky for the Juve defender as he got a piece of it, but it still stayed at his feet. And again, very, very fortunate. And it's counterattacks. They were killing us on counterattacks. And here's a one-off opportunity for Vlahovic. Tried to flip it over the keep. No such luck. Here's Quadrado coming in on a run deep, because Quadrado again, it was really anything we were getting was coming from Quadrado. And it was super, super late. And this one, he decides he had a weird couple steps in here where he let the ball go and kind of took his angle away. It was really, really weird. Weird decision. I'm not sure why, but he kind of took his angle away from him and ends up trying to go short side here, missing.
Can I say quickly on Quadrado? The only thing I don't like is sometimes when he's getting a through ball, instead of just taking the ball and running with it, he takes it and starts slowing down and does this little stutter step instead of just trying to sprint by the guy on the first touch. On that option, he could have, on that time, he should have taken the ball and just sprinted towards goal instead of trying to take those little touches. Because if you just push towards goal, maybe you force the defender to start sprinting, somebody gets wide open, you pass it across, maybe something happens. So you have to be a little bit more aggressive, I feel like, on those opportunities.
Yeah. And then, of course, we finish it off with, again, Rabiot slotting to Quadrado on the right flank there, where he gets in deep, and he just absolutely whips this one in as hard as he can. It's in an awkward way. And you see the first defender, Milenkovic, tried to deflect it, and it messed up the follow-up defender, and he just watches this thing carom off him and go into the net. And Juve fans are laughing, and it's cool to laugh because it's Fiorentina, and it's our training academy, and that part's cool. But we all know it was greasy. We'll take the 1-0. We will get the heck out of there and take that lead back to the Allianz Stadium. Now, we're going to unfold and uncover all this because there's so many questions. And we talked about it right at the kickoff here that you've got the same arguments going back and forth in style points. Style points don't get you points. You got to win and whatnot. I don't think we can apply the results over style in this game. This was a very, very fortunate result for Juventus. Do you agree, Cliff?
I'm looking at the stats right now. We allowed 22 shots with 6 on target. Obviously, that's not a huge percentage of shots on target, but 22 shots, just to have that many be attempted, and then we only had 6 with 1 on target. That's really bad. Looking at that does not look like Juventus played Fiorentina. It looked like, I don't know what it looks like. It looks like it was flipped. If like Juve were to play a lower side on the table. So I mean, they had 55% of possession. They just looked like they were dominating. They started getting chippy later on in the match. There were 5 yellow cards given out. So this one, it had a little bit of everything except for finishing, because nobody could finish the damn ball. But yeah, those wingers, man, for Fiorentina are so dangerous. Even when Nico Gonzalez came on, he was dangerous. You had Sotil, you had Icone was giving us problems out of the back. So this Fiorentina side, man, is really, really dangerous, and they gave us a lot of trouble. We were very fortunate to come out with this victory.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got some couple questions coming in here. So Tony G saying, how can you play defense first when you see that since years that approach does not work? Really, Allegri has to reflect. It's not 1990. Dell's coming in here. It's very hard to get excited about watching Juve these days. I almost don't even need to pay attention for most of the matches. It's.
I have a solution.
I hear the frustration. Okay, I totally understand. Everybody would love for us to do it in style, and I think a lot of the arguments that happen on social media and the difference of opinions between Juventini is simply, number one, preference in how we play and personality. Some people are just so happy-go-lucky that they don't care about any of the other details, and the only detail that matters is that Juventus won. I, for one, it does bother me. It does bother me, to get a result like that, because I know it's nothing that we did on our end. But the more frustrating part is the misunderstanding of the style points. It's more looking at a team and seeing progress. Are we progressing? Have we progressed? Is this team able to hit the next gear? If you play a better team, are we going to be able to prepare ourselves properly? Are we going to have a plan B? And this is just, I think, more of the frustration. So it's not just limped into style points. It's much, much more than that for
Yeah.
most Juventini. It's looking beyond. It's looking at what's our end goal, because Serie A, I mean, sure, this can get us, our top four. Is it enough to play in that manner, to not risk as much to get the Scudetto? Well, there's still a lot to play for and a lot of points available. And, maybe, just maybe, but beyond, it's funny because when we played Empoli the match prior, I literally said, you look at the work Keane and Vlahovic have to do in this match with better defenders. It's gonna just shut right down. And if those guys can't hold the ball against two, sometimes three defenders, what ends up happening? And against Fiorentina, who's better opposition, you saw just that. They struggled heavily. We struggled heavily.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen. And you face better competition, it's going to be even worse. And I can't help but think something's got to change. But what is that something? And that's where the arguments begin. Okay. And we will get to all this.
This comment from Luca, this got me.
Man of the match, before we go any further, okay, if you got to pick a man of the match based on the performances there, Cliff, I'm going to ask you, who was your man of the match?
Honestly, I'd give it to Perin. I thought Perin did a pretty good job. I was impressed with how he did. Obviously, there weren't a ton of shots on target, but when he did have to make saves, he made some decent saves. And I think and put Locatelli in there. That's a really good shout as well. But I want to give Perin some love because, he actually did a really, really solid job considering, how much pressure there was in this one. So he's saying routine saves. It's always routine saves for Anthony. But, also think about it. He was always pressed out the back to have to play out the back. So that's not easy to do for, the majority of this game. So I think, albeit he had one scare in the match, I think overall he did pretty well. I give him the man of the match.
Yeah. I think honestly, I'd probably lean towards a Danilo or a Delict.
Yeah.
In this one, just based on how we played and whatnot. Perin, I can see the shout. So yeah, Locatelli, I think again, I saw a lot of harsh ratings out there, and a lot of harsh criticisms of Locatelli and just a lot of our players. But again, if I'm looking at this team and their system, there's not a lot of options for many of these guys once they get that ball. And something has to change. And now I was just kind of getting into that there, Cliff, and I was saying, what is that something? Now, when we watch these games, there is no link. There's no link up. And, I got to kind of feel a little bit for Max in that aspect, because Dybala, Bernardeschi, they create links. And it's going to sound crazy. It's going to be, I know a lot of people are just going to say, man, stop talking about Bernardeschi and whatnot. But
yeah,
he is literally linked to this team when we had the most balance. When I look at this team, there is a massive, massive lack of balance across the pitch. Okay. And when you have a right side wing back that gets 17 touches in 45 minutes, and then you have a midfielder on the opposite side that has 39 touches in 90 minutes, tell me that this team is balanced.
I can't.
It isn't.
I can't, because they are missing Berna. They're missing somebody creatively, whether it's Dybala or Berna. I think this summer we could probably talk about that in Storm the Barn. Get your questions in, guys, by the way, for Storm the Barn. This summer we're probably going to need to sign an out-and-out left winger, I think.
Yeah. So it's just there, this lack of balance, it's clear to see. And, you can't have one out of your three midfielders that is, less than 50% of touches compared to the other two. Like, what's going on? How is that affecting? It affects everything. It affects the offensive phase. It
Yeah.
affects escaping the press. It escapes, it affects everything.
But I do want to say,
Same
though,
thing with the wing back,
yeah,
not enough. So there's something going on there.
I want to
Something
say, though,
going.
playing out of this press, partially it's on the players, but I think that also comes down to coaching, practicing this in training, getting out of those situations. That I think comes down to the manager, because it sometimes seems like the players didn't know, where to pass to, where to find the reads to get out of a press. So I think that in that aspect, that comes down to coaching. That comes down to the manager telling these guys, okay, when we're in the press, this is how we need to adjust. This is how we need to play. Because without the coaching, they're not going to have the wherewithal to know how they're going to play out of the press.
Yeah. Yeah. The it's there's a lot of things going on. But the main thing is, honestly, when I see this Juve and we discuss this Juventus, it's like we're a defensive first team. Okay. Max has established that he wants that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's defense first. Okay. Everything that comes beyond that, I think, again, in just the history of Allegri and how he speaks, how he's spoken, what he reads in his what he writes in his biography, he is very, very dependent on the players he has at his disposal offensively.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, a couple areas to improve. Definitely how we play against the press.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to use these guys. It can't be the same guys, because if a team rules out Artur, they rule out Luca, like, you have to have other avenues, and it's got to be much more cohesive in terms of keeping the possession and starting to control matches. That's something that has to increase, because all these counters and whatnot, like, even if it is, even if we just say that Fiorentina was able to do this based on counterattacks and hurt us just solely on counterattacks, a lot of it came from our inability to retain possession in a
Yeah.
strong fashion. So again, you still need to improve. And ultimately, if all of us as Juventini agree, which even the Allegri, the supporters, the crazy Allegri supporters, not that they're crazy for supporting Allegri, but I mean the strong supporters of Allegri. I should put it that you're not crazy for
The
supporting
Allegri
Allegri. We
sexuals,
all
we like to call
support
them.
Allegri,
Yeah.
obviously. So even those people, if we all admit yesterday was a clear robbery,
Yeah.
okay, then there's improvements that need to be made. Because
Yeah.
if we're going into games and being second place in them is the best, I fail to believe that that's the best we can do, right?
Yeah.
Now, the arguments that take place on social media say, well, you see Max is yelling at the players in whatever minute and stuff. So it's definitely on the players. They're definitely not doing what he wants them to do. I have a problem with this internally, deep down internally, because if the players are not doing what he wants,
That's a problem.
it's not my job to go there and get them to do it. It's March, everybody. Hey, we're supposed to peak, but it's March. Why are these guys not doing what he wants them to do? And you can't put injuries on that, because
Yeah.
it shouldn't matter who the player is. They should know what Max wants by now. Am I correct in saying that, Cliff?
Um. I mean, yes, I think you are. I think you are. I think the injuries definitely come into play, but at the end of the day, if the players aren't, taking the coaching that he's giving them, and that's on the players. So I think this has just been a whole back and forth season where we blame Allegri, then we blame the players, and we blame injury. Like, there's a lot of. I think this is just a collection of a lot of issues, and this has just been a really rough season for us overall. And the fact that we're still in top four contention is amazing. But in that situation, I think you're 100% right. I mean, it comes down to the players. If they can't understand his philosophy, or they can't listen to him and his coaching, then that's a problem. Then those players need to get a reality check.
Yeah. And the thing is, you have to give credit to Max because of where we are right now. We are literally in striking distance to make things interesting in Serie A. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And, Coppa Italia, we're on the verge of getting to that final for the ability to play for that trophy. Champions League, let's wait and see what happens in a couple of weeks in that return leg against Villarreal. So he's got us, right there, despite all of this. Is it pretty? Absolutely not. But so far, we can't necessarily say that this season has been, shambles or anything, whatnot. It's just the style points aren't there. But ultimately, right now, as it stands, Max has us where our expectations probably should have been.
Yeah, and I told people, get top 4 this season, make it out alive. Next season, we're going to look really special when everybody comes back healthy. This team is going to look very special, and they're going to be a Scudetto contender.
Now, we've got some super interesting questions from Twitter and whatnot. One from our own Omer that really open up, the thought process on this Juve, and it's very hard to answer. So that shows you just how much is actually going on, and Allegri has had to deal with and whatnot. But we wanted to get away from the typical, ranting and raving and all this. Ultimately, it's a win, okay? And I will always be happy for that. Yes, did I want to see it in a different fashion? Absolutely. But a win is a win, and ultimately I'm happy for the 1-0 and bringing that to Allianz Stadium. Now, we're going to kick it off with number one, just a quick reminder to everybody that's here right now, like the video. Okay, if you're new, subscribe to the channel, your one-stop shop for everything Juve. Number two, if you're listening to this podcast on your audio outlets, get over to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, join in the live chat, have some fun. We got news updates, videos, watch-alongs, and a lot of great stuff. Okay, so make sure you get here and subscribe on YouTube. Stoppage Time has its own YouTube channel. Get over there. That's our Serie A coverage, of course, spearheaded by Cliff himself, and they do great work. So make sure you get there as well. And of course, couple ways to support the channel. One's a super chat for those live here. Okay, donations if you feel inclined. If you want to get some cool merch at the same time, stripedheartsapparel.com. Okay, get there and pick up some custom stuff. And of course, yesterday we had some cool drops. Okay, and we'll quickly just pop those. But the Mad Max
Those are cool, man.
out. Okay, hoodies and tees celebrating the madman we're talking about right now, who probably loved that victory yesterday with 6 total attempts and coming out 1-0. And it's got the famous quote on the back: "You want entertainment? Go to the circus. I want 3 points." Okay, so there you have it. And of course, we had our own AJC drop with the Rovella Hive tees, and then of course,
I didn't see that.
Anthony's avatar there with "They Stink," and then our custom AJC Ultras tees. So again, show some love, get yourself some cool gear. Now, without further ado, Cliff, we want to get away from the ranting and raving. So I want to get your honest opinion on just your thoughts on this particular Juventus. If you feel like comparing to the previous season, you can, but maybe your feelings about that year, how it went through, and how you feel this season with this Juve. Is this Juventus stronger, or are they the same? Just your thoughts.
It's really tough because if I look at this team on paper right now with injuries and everything, this is the weakest Juventus that we've seen, at least that I've seen in my lifetime that I can remember. But looking based on last season, obviously we had Ronaldo. Ronnie fanboys are probably going to attack me, but I think this season when Chiesa was healthy, when everybody was healthy, this was a stronger Juventus. When we had Zaccaria, we had all these players. This is a much stronger team. We had Locatelli. We didn't have Locatelli. Wait, did we have him last season? I already forgot.
No, Luca wasn't there last year.
We didn't have Luca last year. I'm losing my mind. All these seasons are kind of merging into one. But yeah, so this team is 100% stronger than last season. Last season had I think more of a direction of where we wanted to go. This season, we don't really know what our formation is. I mean, there was some of that last season too, but we've gone through so many different formations, so many different lineups. Um, we don't have like a pure focal point. Like last year it was Ronaldo. That was kind of our focal point. We knew that things were going to be dictated a lot by him. This season, now that we have Vlahovic, when Dybala's healthy, we don't know, is everything going to flow through Vlahovic, Dybala, does it go through Luca in the midfield? We don't really know. So this season, this is on paper a much stronger team, but it just looks out of character. It doesn't seem like there's a pure direction that we're going in.
Yeah. So, I mean, great points, and it's honestly there is no right or wrong because it's how you personally feel about the Juve clubs. Last year, I feel like Pirlo backed away from the direction he really wanted to go. And I've really been starting to look back on not only Pirlo season, but Sarri's season as well. And there are a couple trends and that even carry into this season that, may support the fact that it is the players and it's this team's inability, regardless of the best being out there, able to hit that next gear. And just the consistency levels just not being there. Now, even dating back to Sarri, Sarri came out of the gate and we were seeing some pretty solid ball. Then all of a sudden it just shifted a lot. Of course, you have the famous quote that these players are not trainable, right? You hit Pirlo's season. Pirlo had I think I agree with you, like there was a clear direction. However, in the Coppa Italia matches against Inter, he completely flipped. He found something that handled them and shut them down. And then he tried to go with that. And I don't necessarily know if that was the best, but that team crumbled after Porto. And mentally, they were just not where they needed to be to pick up the pieces. So I think Pirlo was a little hard done by on that. Regardless, that's not the discussion I want to have. Now you get into Allegri season. I actually think there is a clear direction from Max, but it's literally defense first.
Yeah.
He wants to prevent every other team from hurting Juve and then seeing what they can do in the offensive end by creating whatnot and just smash and grab games. I literally feel like this is the direction. The issue that many Juventini have with this, does it get better with our best players in there? Have we technically seen that? Because if we even think back to this season, earlier on when Dybala was in there, McKennie was in there, who was a big loss too because he was in good form. Chiesa was very ineffective this season under Max up until his injury. Does it get better even with another Mercado for Max?
I'm starting to think that even with this team at their best, if everybody's healthy, I think this team is still a team that, wins games 2-0, 1-0. They're not going to be scoring a lot of goals. They're going to be very defensive. Luca brings up an interesting point because he brings up if Pirlo was still managing this team, we'd be in a different position. I'll take it a step further. If you give us a more attacking-minded coach, Lex is going to love this, Italiano, I don't think we're necessarily a better team, but we're going to be a more exciting team. We're going to beat teams 3-1. We're going to beat teams 4-2. We're going to concede goals, but we're going to score at such a high clip that teams will not be able to keep up. And for me personally, I think this team is dictating that forward-thinking mindset. I don't think we're going to be the same team that we used to be in the past where we hold 1-0, 2-0 decisions. I think we need to start looking more progressively towards a more attacking-minded team. That's what the team is dictating with players like Vlahovic, Chiesa, and Dybala. So that's my opinion. I think you plug in Italiano, I think this is a much different team. And I think in 3 to 5 seasons, we see that. It's a big window, but I think we see Italiano coach Juventus.
Here's the thing. It's like I don't want to get into a discussion of changing coaches and whatnot because we have Max here right now. We have to get into. I don't want to get into where we'd be this season with Pirlo either because it's all just speculation and whatnot. Yeah. We have to look at the now, who we have, who's here, and try and kind of dissect this and whatnot. But again, if you're looking at this and we're talking about trying to correct something and whatnot, but Max will not change.
Yeah.
We tried to talk about this, and we tried to see if 2 years away removed from football is going to change. It hasn't changed. But what has changed? What has changed in football is that these teams that didn't used to harass Max's sides like this
Now
now
they
are,
push. Yeah.
and the blueprint's been laid, and there's a lot of teams playing with high press and getting the ball at their players' feet and then going from there. And if you have a team that struggles heavily to deal with the press, it creates issues. Back then in Max's days, a lot of the teams up until his last year, when he first started to feel the heat, when the blueprint got laid
Yeah.
and more teams were opening up and playing a high press style,
Yeah.
things started to change and his team started to struggle
100%.
because they were used to teams parking the bus. Oh shit, Juve's in town,
Yeah, exactly.
we're parking the bus. It ain't like that anymore. So he's got to figure something out. I continue to say this. Like, here's the thing with Max. He's not necessarily far off right now. Like, there's just that balance issue. And the funny thing is that Max is all about balance, but you have to be able to see that it's uneven right now. It's tilted a little too much to the defensive side. I think we could still hold our stability defensively and offer a bit more in terms of control in matches. Now, we are very hard on players. I see a lot of criticisms and say, what do you want Max to do when players can't complete easy passes? If I'm watching this game yesterday, these passes, there's no other options. So it's very easy for Fiorentina to sniff those out and cut them off. And that's exactly what was happening because the ball wasn't going to go anywhere else because it had nowhere else to go. If you, on top of that, have two players constantly playing with defenders on their back, Vlahovic, Keane, and by the way, I might add, Keane a complete flip from the Empoli match to Fiorentina. And I should say, saw it coming because, again, when you're trying to play and make a living in that way with better opposition, that's a long day at the office.
Yeah.
Keane yesterday looked like he was trying to handle a ticking time bomb with his feet. It wasn't happening. You have all this. You have to fight fire with fire. He needs to push a little more. He isn't far off. It's just a little bit of balance. Again, when you highlight in the middle, across the middle of the pitch, if you're playing 3-5-2, a right wing back with only 17 touches through an entire half, and a midfielder, one of your three center midfielders that touches the ball 36 times in 90 minutes.
Yeah.
You need a more even involvement, and Guy's going to have to attack space more. He isn't far off. And again, the biggest thing is our expectations going into this season. I want to get away from this style talk, okay? And this is what I'm really pushing on this podcast because that battle's been beat to death. We now know who Max is. We know how he wants to move forward. Let's start talking about this actual team and what we see.
Yeah.
Do these guys coming back help that balance? Dybala, Bernardeschi, do you continue in a 3-5-2 with those players?
No, I think I really think that this team, when everybody's healthy, I still think this team dictates a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, however you want to say it, that kind of setup. I think we have the personnel for it. I don't think we really have the full personnel for a 3-5-2, depth-wise and then talent-wise. I don't think it's fully set for that. That's my personal opinion. But if everybody's healthy, a 4-2-3-1, you play Dybala at the cam, you play maybe Berna or Keane as a winger on the left, and then Chiesa on the right wing is obviously, and then Vlahovic up top. And obviously some people will shout for the trident of Morata, Dybala, and Vlahovic in a 4-3-3, but I don't think a 3-5-2 suits us best, at least as of right now.
Yeah. Now, Eric coming in here saying Dybala and Berna back will be a huge boost, seemingly the only two link-up players, and that's kind of what it appears. Now, the good news is that Bernardeschi, Dybala, Rugani will be should be back in training today and should be available for Spezia. this is just it. And the question I wanted to bring up from Omar, okay, which was, I thought, fantastic, and I did retweet it, and it was basically, if you're looking at Max, has Max overachieved or underachieved
Oh, that's a
so
great
far?
question. Well, we know Omer's phenomenal. We work with him all the time. He's a great mind, and he asked a great question there. Did he overachieve or underachieve?
So far this season, in your opinion, has Max, and I asked this to everybody on the live as well, has he underachieved or has he overachieved?
Well, Luca he just put vehemently that he says he underachieved. It's really tough because he didn't really get like some main pieces until halfway through the season with Zakaria and Vlahovic. He didn't have a true number 9 until halfway through the season. And then once he did, he doesn't have Chiesa, doesn't have McKinney, and then he lost Zakaria. I mean, I think we can only really judge by the end of the season, but so far, that we're in top 4. Oh man, this is tough.
I'll give you I'll give you a little bit to,
This is
think
tough,
and
man.
process still. In my personal opinion, I don't think he's neither underachieved or overachieved.
Yeah.
I personally think, he's kind of right there. Like, I mean, again, if we look at the big picture, and if you look at the really rocky start at the year, where I actually give him credit, okay?
Yeah.
Because, and it's funny because, like, damn, I don't know, from Eric, in top 4 potential 2 trophies,
Yeah.
Finally as a legit striker. Here's the thing for me, when I thought about this and really broke it down, is Max at the start of the year, I will give him the benefit of the doubt because there were player issues, and Szczesny, was at fault for even some drop points and whatnot. Now, through that, even if we say that Max got it wrong, which he did get it wrong in a few matches, okay, that's a fair assessment leading up to here, okay? So even in a couple matches that he's gotten wrong, we're still, 7 points out of first. Whether we get first or not, we're in the top 4 right now as it stands. Top 4 is obviously a main objective. We scraped into top 4 last season, okay?
Yeah.
So reminder, that was kind of and that was with Cristiano Ronaldo. That's kind of a gauge of measurement to where this team has kind of been. Okay, so he's got us in top 4 right now after losing Ronaldo into the season. One game or 2 games into the season, then Ronaldo leaves. So again, rocky start. Ronaldo leaves. All this, okay. January comes around, but we've been undefeated since sometime in November.
Yeah.
And January hits, we get Vlahovic, we've got Zakaria, of course, injury. Look at the injury list right now. We're 7 points out of first. We're holding down 4th right now. We're on the verge of going to the Coppa Italia final. Yeah, we dropped the Super Coppa. And again, this is the problem. These games that pop up. That Super Coppa, where we had no business winning it based on what we did nothing to win it. The Chelsea return leg. Not return leg because it wasn't too late time, but the return match, Chelsea in London there, where we got absolutely blasted. These matches linger in the memory, and that's what I was going to. And that's what makes you think that this style is just not going to cut it. But ultimately, results-wise, I don't think you can say he's underachieved.
I got an answer. I got an answer for you. Yeah. So, like you said, if you look at these matches that make me very angry when I think about them, it makes me want to say underachieved. But you realistically think about this from the fact that he had a very weak midfield. He has 75-year-olds as his center backs who are still good, but they're 75-year-olds. They can't move. And then you had Ronaldo leaving at the beginning of the season. That threw a huge wrench in things. You had to scramble. You didn't have a true number 9 until halfway through the season. You have injuries galore. I'm going to go bold, and I'm going to say that he's overachieved with this team. The fact that we're still in top 4, and the fact that there's still even some people saying that we're still have a chance to be a Scudetto contender. I think that in itself is a miracle. And I'm going to say he's overachieved with this team.
Yeah, so I think the separation again, and this is the funny part, and this is why it makes this hard, is again, I'm trying to tie it in different questions, different methods to see that it still ultimately comes down to your personal preference and belief on style versus results. It
Yeah.
really, really does, because underachieved, sure, if you're looking at, a comment like Luca's, which is
Yeah.
last season we conceded the same amount but created more in terms of opportunities with a worse midfield. However, again, result-wise, we needed help in the last match. We won the last match, but we needed a result and got it, thankfully, or we were out.
Yeah.
So now, flip forward, sure, the style isn't there. We're creating less. Could we do more with our players? Potentially. But we're in and out of a lot of players. We're in and out of a lot of setups. It's very, very difficult. I put him right in the middle. I don't think he's neither underachieved nor overachieved. I think we're right where we should be, to be honest.
Yeah, can I flip the script on you? Because I do hosting
Do
on
it,
Stop
man.
Sam.
Let's
I'm
go.
gonna ask
Flip
one
the script.
question for you, because I know we were talking about it. Would you rather pretty football and win 4-3 or 3-2 at a high clip and score all these goals, or would you rather win a 1-0, 2-0 result where it's a little bit of a different type of nail biter? Which one do you actually prefer?
Here's the thing with me, and that I try to make as clear as possible. It's not about looking pretty. It's about the team and how the team looks. I need them to be cohesive and have chemistry and almost just know where the other players are going to be at any given time. I don't see that with our team, and I think that needs to be established first and foremost in order for the players to grow and for them to develop and become stronger. So what I'm seeing is just a lot of constant thrown together, line them up and go. I'm not seeing that. I don't care what the score line is. We could win 1-0 from here until the end of my
and you'd be
day,
happy.
and I would be happy as long as it's cohesive and the team's growing and they're strong as a unit, right?
Yeah.
I could care less if we score 7 or 1 in a game, but
Yeah.
it has to be cohesive and it has to be strong, and it has to give me faith that we could take what we're doing against any team. Right now, that's the part that hurts me, is that I still kind of share those feelings with many, where these past games, our particular style and setup in game right now might not be the way to actually go beyond what our current expectations are. And ultimately, you have to always be looking at growth and beyond. Like, where's the end plan? Because if this is our end plan, and I personally still believe that this roster is capable of more, if this is our end plan, I think it'll be good enough for Serie A.
Yeah.
You could do some damage in Coppa Italia, but in Europe and beyond, I think we would be needing an incredible amount of fortune.
Yeah, and you need to unlock. For me, to quickly respond to my own question, was I'd like to see the higher clip of goals, because that means we're unlocking Vlahovic properly. We're unlocking Chiesa. We're unlocking these players who we spent a good amount of money on, who are going to be bringing us forward into the future.
Yeah, it's tough. And again, it all comes down to personal thoughts and feelings and preferences. Like, Eric's here that says, I think there's less poor matches you remember from this year because we managed a positive result than last year. We remember more poor matches from last year because of the result of those matches. Yeah, ultimately, this just feels very, very reminiscent of Max's, the end of his first tenure for that year and a half, where the football became very tough to watch, but results were coming. So ultimately, at the end of the day, the results are great. And I will, greasy win or not, I will always take it. But again, in terms of is the team growing? Do we have a plan B and all that? Those questions still remain. We still have quite a few questions. But I truly do stand behind what I said today, that I don't think Max is far off. Hopefully getting some of these link-up players can even things out. And again, when you look at those numbers across the pitch and you have two guys that barely get touches, barely get involved, that's going to make for a long day. So he's got to figure some out. I do believe we have the capability of pushing that defensive line a little bit forward and getting those mids a little closer to Vlahovic, Keane, Morata, to support them. Now, when I think about this and moving forward and whatnot, and I can't help but going back to last season as well in comparison, and even this season. Now, I'm not saying we know take the coaches out of the equation, whether it was Landucci matches or whatnot, take that out of the equation. But this Juve, dating back to last season and this season, looked its best in terms of style, possession, control when we went 4-2-3-1. Do you think that just suits this team the most?
100%. I just think it fits our team right now, what we have for personnel wise, and I think it fits on the style of play that Max wants to play. I just think overall it's the best for what we have. I don't think a 3-5-2 suits us. I truly don't think a 4-3-3 really suits us either. With that flat three-man midfield. Unless we get a true left winger, then that could change a lot of things, and we could play that three-man midfield potentially. But that would also be including if Dybala left. But that's digressing a little bit. But right now, 4-2-3-1 is the best. And I also want to say, based on your last point, I think next year, give Max a full season with this team, everybody healthy. I think that will be a much better determination of what he can do and what this team can achieve.
Yeah. Now Mars coming in here with, first of all, hello. Ciao, Mars. Hope all is well. And I just prefer to win games with quality and not with luck. In my opinion, yesterday was pure luck. We had one opportunity to score. One. It was unwatchable. Pass in the defense, long ball, and ball loss. I agree. I mean, we all want to see the team playing with quality. And that's what I said. I don't care about the score lines. I don't care about that. Like, I do want the results. You want to see them playing with quality. You want to see the development there and the chemistry and all that increase, and a team get stronger and stronger and stronger. I don't see the team necessarily getting stronger.
Yeah.
I just see a team that's getting results. And ultimately, Max, this is what Max cares about. It's all he cares about. It's what he wants is getting the results. And we are getting that. So we have to be happy for that. What we need to wait for is if things change and if things grow and develop more once we get the bodies back and a summer mercado, because Max still technically hasn't had one. Okay.
Yeah.
But you know, I still do understand those that doubt that based on, you know, the team Max had towards the end when the year and a half his team started to kind of crumble. But it's neither here or there. I think we just got to wait and see. And the one thing that those particular fans keep going back on is that earlier in this year, when we went on a little unbeaten stretch and we were waiting for certain key guys to get back, and this will boost the attack, we'll start getting these guys. They came back, and it was a lot of the same. So it's tough. It's tough. Now Luca's saying, you know, no.
He means a full mercato. That's what he means.
In January. Okay, Luca, it takes time for these guys to, you know, get chemistry with the player. Just because you brought him in January doesn't mean he's going to be clicking with everybody instantly. And another point to that is how much things have changed. Like setup wise, we played 3 different setups since Vlahovic came in.
So he can't get comfortable.
All that plays in. And again, he started playing with Dybala. Now Dybala's out. Zakaria was in there. Zakaria's out. McKinney was doing great, supporting the offense. Zakaria's gone. It is what it is.
Eric's right. It's in for 17 minutes.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate events. Guys, want to remind everybody, take the time, like the video, okay? And if you're new here, subscribe to the channel. Time for Storm the Barn, where we're going to open up questions to everybody here. I know there was a bunch that were earlier on in the chat, and man, we were diving in so much that I don't think I flagged them, unfortunately, but that's okay, you guys. Just toss them in now and get your Storm the Barn questions in.
We got one.
Do you have any questions before we get? I see Anthony's there. We're going to get to it, but do you have any questions?
Do I have any questions?
And if not, that's fine.
Is this the last time we see Bonucci and Chiellini together in that back line this season? Do you think this is another season of them starting together, or do you think Chiellini's a bench player who's going to be transitioned into a management role or some sort of coaching role with this team. Because I think that for me, I'll answer on my end. I think Bonucci has, I think he has one more good season with De Ligt, but they need to get another center back because I think it's over for our great duo of Bonucci and Chiellini.
Yeah, I think
because I love him.
This is going to be it for Chiellini.
Yeah,
I think Bonucci will probably be what Chiellini's role this season is next year.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
I see that.
Stepping in for some bigger games, kind of being there, being that ambassador and whatnot.
What the hell is Ant saying? He does not have 3 to 4 seasons left. Hands on one leg.
I don't see 3 or 4. Ant's just having the faith for the old guys, and I'm an old guy too, so it's cool, man. I get it. It's cool. Yeah, I think he's going to go in that role. We have to address that this summer, though. Center back has to be addressed. I know we signed Gatti and whatnot, but apparently Juve's still going for Bremer, so it'll be interesting to see that dynamic. They're in the mix. Apparently news today on Botman, though, Cliff?
Yes. 3.5 million Milan have signed him. They haven't signed him officially, but they've locked in a deal with him on personal terms. 3.5 million per season. They're trying to lock in now a deal with the actual team of Lille.
Well, we all know that the player's will is everything. Once you lock that personal thing, well, we've seen it firsthand with Locatelli and then Vlahovic. So it's huge. So there you go. One foot in the door there for Botman and them. So Bremer, though, he really impressed me the last time we played him, and his work on Vlahovic. He ain't no slouch. And of course, the question with Gatti is, they say that Gatti was picked up not because of a bargaining chip by any means or anything like that, but just because of Juve's love for the player. So it'll be very, very interesting. Everybody, of course, has the same questions with Gatti making that jump from Serie B to Serie A.
He could be the next Barzagli. He could be a late bloomer.
It could be. But I mean, he's what, 23? The guy looks 32.
Is he 23? I thought he was 27.
He's 23 years old. He looks
like
he's 32. Yeah. So Gatti's 23. If I could be wrong. If you have your phone there, Cliff, by all means, just quickly pull it up. But I'm pretty sure he's 23 years old. I'm going to get to a first Storm the Barn question. Anthony didn't even really have a question. He just want everyone's honest opinion on losing to me in the prediction challenge yesterday. I know you all think, come on, get out of here, Ant. Get out of here. KM, do we need to sign? Well, here we are.
Wow, he's 23.
Summer. He is 23.
I didn't know. I thought I read somewhere he was 27. 23 is really young. That's a lot of.
He looks like he's
time.
32. Like I said, like he looks old, but he's 23 years old. So he's not. It's not like a super late bloomer.
Yeah,
but,
no.
KM saying right where we are right now. Do we need to sign top defender in the summer as Bonucci and Chiellini are constantly getting injured? I see Chiellini on the way out, and I say yes. You need to address it. You need to address it. In terms of top and where you go with it is interesting because of the fact we're going to need a left back, and I still say, and it's still heavily covered that Juve will be going after a midfielder, right? So you have profile there. As far as top and what we consider top, you're only going to get that in either the midfield or defense, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
And I would probably want that high-profile guy in the middle of the park. That's just me, my preference, how I see this team. Depending on those profiles, I know what's been said. I'm holding out faith. Milinkovic-Savic. I think he drastically, that
would be amazing.
I had my doubts about him and just him in general. I thought he got a lot of freedom in Lazio style and whatnot. Since Lazio has changed styles completely, I've seen a lot more out of him, and I'm flipping it. And I would love Milinkovic-Savic. So I think if you're going to go for a top profile, I would do everything I could to make it at midfield, and then take what you can. Obviously, decent to good defender and left back. See where you go from there. Flip that question too, because we know we need to address the defense. So we've kind of answered that for KM, but where would you see the biggest profile?
For defense is Bremer. Bremer's obviously that number one guy. I tell you right now, though, if we got Bremer, Savage, and a left winger, I honestly think within 2 seasons we could be in the UCL final. Like that's
Well,
like
this
that's
is the thing is you're not going to be able to. Like, there's no way you're going to pull Bremer and
yeah, it's
Milinkovic-Savic
one or
in
the other.
one go, right? So if you could only do the one, do you do it in the midfield or do you do it on the defense?
For me, I do it in the defense because you have players in the pipeline who could fill in center mid. We've seen what Ravella can do in a sample size
Interesting.
at Genoa because you have him. You want to also support your youth system. You have these players, developing. Why not give them an opportunity to fill in? Because you already have Luca, you have Zakaria, Arturo, McKennie. That's, I think, a really solid four. You add Ravella into that, who's young and prolific. Why would you sign Milinkovic? I mean, obviously, the answer to that is you'd sign Milinkovic-Savic because he's so much quality. But you have a set team in place. You have Ravella hanging in the wings, but you have immediate needs at center back. Like, you're going to be very weak at that position. So bringing in Bremer, I think, is top priority.
Yeah. So who would you sign as Bonucci's replacement? I mean, Bremer is tops. I'm low-key hoping, I know they won't, but I'm low-key hoping Atalanta doesn't pick up the option on Demiral.
He's so good.
But
that'd be good.
You know, it is what it is, but I'm low-key hoping that happens. Mar saying that Gatti should be the replacement for Rugani in his opinion. Yeah, I mean, I'd be fine with that too. Rugani has a whole nother year on his contract.
Yeah.
So he's going to be around anyways, unless they loan him out and then bring Gatti in, which I'd be okay with. It must be said, in the matches called upon, Rugani's actually done well this season, right? So, yeah. It is what it is. Luca's little question here. When are we seeing more AJC-inspired tees? I want a grumpy anti-Rabbit Luti. We're going to have some fun with the AJC tees for sure.
The NFTs, though. The NFTs.
The what? The
NFTs. Those are pretty cool.
Drop some. Well, Ant's got his NFT on his with the "They Stink" slogan on there. So there you go.
That's awesome.
Jeremiah coming in here. Do you feel we can get into the top 2 in the Scudetto race by next weekend? And do we win big against Villarreal? So obviously a massive matchup in terms of the Scudetto this weekend with Napoli and Milan squaring off.
Yeah.
Okay. When you look at the other team schedules, Juve's got it pretty good, right?
We do.
So we're going to face Spezia. We're going to have almost an entire week before facing Sampdoria.
Yeah.
And then we will go to we will play Villarreal in Turin and then Salernitana. That's our March, everybody. That is that's a good schedule. So we absolutely cannot drop, and I do not see us dropping these matches in Serie A. So in terms of by next weekend,
it's too soon.
No, it's too close. So no, not next weekend. But I definitely see us not dropping those 3 matches. Villarreal, do we win big against Villarreal?
Yes.
Cliff?
I think we win 3-1. I think the first one, I called it on this Serie A sit-down show. I called it a draw, and I know that when we come back in Torino, I think we win 3-1, and I think we show them what Juve can actually do.
Yeah, I don't know if we win big, but I see us going through. I see, again, I'm hoping that Max can see, based on that first match, the adjustments that need to be made. And honestly, Villarreal, through all of it, scored a goal on an error that a couple guys, one guy definitely usually doesn't make, so I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be okay coming back home. Obviously, let's wait and see if the capacity cranks up too, because we should have hopefully a full capacity by then, and then we can get going on there. Let's see. We've got some more. Storm the Bar. Will you trust Pellegrini as a future in the left back position, or sign a player who has potential like him? I think I signed somebody to battle him for the starting role. You agree?
Yep. I 100% agree. I think you need to have some healthy competition between those two, whoever they would sign, whether it's a Cambiaso or maybe A player that I think has gone under the radar is Aaron Hickey at Bologna. I really like him, and I like his skill set. So I think that would be a really good, mesh of players with a little bit of different skill sets, but both could be very competent left backs. So I would have two young players who can battle it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think keeping the competition there, and you don't want to sign somebody and obviously just clearly leave Pellegrini in the dust, or just make it a battle. And we should be having battles for the starting spot. So let's do it that way. KM just talking back to my thoughts on Milinkovic-Savic, saying I just saw a journalist saying he is the priority. Let's go. Mars saying, I agree. I love SMS, but our biggest issue is the defense. With Chiello and Bonucci aging, their defensive play style dies.
Yeah.
See, and I see it differently. And this goes back to our thoughts earlier on Max and this particular Juventus this season and whatnot. We're not far off. There's a little bit of a balance thing. Milinkovic-Savic allows you to play a 4-2-3-1 almost seamlessly.
Yeah, he does.
Almost seamlessly, by being in the center and being able to be that driving force out of the middle. And your wingers can play off of that. And then, of course, you have Vlahovic up top. This evening out the balance here should help out our back end. The times our back end struggles so far this season is because of our inability to hold and retain possession and the cheap giveaways. And that's really the only times they look truly suspect. I don't disagree that we need to bring somebody in for the defense, but if Milinkovic-Savic is there for us, I think I'd go for it before a top priority center back, because I think there's alternatives at center back that we can work with, right?
Yeah, if he's 60 mil or under, I lock it in.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, but again, Bremer's a solid D-man, but different style to Bonucci too. And I still say Bonucci will be there. And he'll be that guy that plays big games. His injury record still is nowhere near that of Chiellini's and whatnot. So I do kind of, in one term, agree with Anthony. He's got much more to him, but maybe not 3-4 years, but he's got much more to him. So
I love Ant's optimism, though. I love it.
Oh man, I love it. So Dells, is this unbeaten streak masking the real issues with our play?
No, I don't think so. Is it okay if I answer first?
Well, yeah, you already did, man. Just fire away.
Yeah, I don't think so, because we've seen game to game. If you're watching this team closely, like most of us do, it's not masking anything, because we're seeing a ton of draws. Yeah, it's unbeaten, but we're pulling out a ton of draws that should be wins against teams that we should be. Historically, we used to blow out, so it shouldn't be this close. I don't think it's masking anything, though.
Yeah, I think I don't think it's masking the real issues with our play, because I think we all can see it. We all know where the issues lie. What it's doing is making us not feel as bad, but it's not masking the issues. The issues are there. They know it. We have to have. I get a lot of faith in our management when you hear the things that Arriva Bene says and the way they're working, and that last winter mercado, that gives me faith that they're very much in tune. Max needs to put it all together. Right now, this unbeaten streak is great and putting us where we need to be, so I'll take it at all costs.
Reward the faith that the management has put in you, Allegri, to give you the players you want. But
it does not mask some of the issues. I think everyone's fully aware of the issues, and they're clearly evident, when you watch the team play. So we'll probably take one, maybe two more, and then wrap up and sign off. So Jeremiah, what do you guys feel about Traore from Sassuolo? If we go for him in the summer, do you see him as a good fit for Juve? Cliff, I'll let you kick us off on Traore.
I love this question because we were actually just talking about it on stoppage time. He's been on a hot streak. He's been playing really well. He's kind of like a Boga. It's very similar to Boga, and he's a perfect replacement for him because he can play cam and left wing really quick with his feet and always looking to go towards goal. I think he would be a good fit at Juve. I think Lou had said that we have first right of refusal for him. So we have a good opportunity to get him. Depends on the price. So I think he said it was like 10 to 15 mil. That's really good the way he's been playing. I wouldn't mind picking up that option just to have more depth at the left wing cam position, because that's one more player we'd have in our arsenal who's a pretty cheap buy for the quality that he is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely wouldn't be against it at that price. I mean, yeah, he's been in great form. Um, I'd have no problems with it, to be honest.
Mhm.
Again, there's a lot of scenarios that open up and
Yeah,
options and whatnot. So, but Traore is doing very, very well. He's in great, great form. And I definitely think the fact that Juve has first priority, you have to entertain that. And
yeah,
they will most likely definitely be factoring that in to where they go, right?
yeah,
Traore could also be that pickup on first option that later on down the line develops into, I hate to say it, but he could be that bargaining chip somewhere down the road too, right? If it
exactly.
doesn't work out at Juve or whatnot, or they might see him in that fashion, and that would just be them taking advantage of that first priority, right? So
Yeah,
that's why I think that's a big key with Traore is, and you have to entertain it, is that first priority, right?
yeah.
Now, yeah, guys, great show. I mean, 1-0 victory. We're bringing it back to Allianz. Let's see what happens. I think we're gonna hit that final and be playing for that trophy. We've got a good little break weekend. Spezia. I'm doing everything in my power. I think we're gonna have a watch along. I think we're gonna have another watch along. Okay, the last two
Ooh,
have been fire. I thank you all for the
okay.
support. They've been great. Now let's get her going and try another one. Of course, we're gonna be back with a match day live. Okay, that'll be on
Yeah.
match day at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. Make sure you come in and join us, everybody. I'll be bringing you the news daily in little update videos. The guys are doing a fantastic job on Twitter. If you guys aren't following us yet on Twitter, get over there at all UVcast, okay? And everybody that's tuning in on audio, get over to YouTube, subscribe to the channel. We got a ton of great video content and, of course, lives. Now, last, certainly not least, if you choose to support the channel and want to get some cool merch, again, the Mad Max tee and hoodies are out from stripedheartsapparel.com. And we've got classic, just strictly AJC line. Okay, all UVcast line from Striped
That's so
Hearts with the
clean.
Rovella Hive tees. That's a constant saying around this show, the Rovella Hive. Now we got the tees to back it. Ant's avatar with They Stink, and of course the AJC Ultras logo. That is such a cool new custom logo for the All UV cast. So we thank you all. Should you choose to support, these are a couple ways how. We love you. Thank you as always. Let's continue to grow the community. If you like the content, share it, but most importantly, enjoy it. Till next time, fino alla fina. Forza Juventus. Okay, take the win, as greasy as it is. Let's look on to Serie A. Let's go.